15-year-old, I was panicking because I did not have big arms. Well, I'm not chasing biceps, if that's any consolation. I'm not chasing biceps, but I am trying to get people as strong as they can get, enjoy the process of training. The goal is to get people to like moving every day. I did wind up catching the CrossFit wave, functional training wave. So there are several waves which have kind of helped me. First, 2012 was when I started my career in fitness, as you call it. You've got to understand that it doesn't stop with 3 months. It doesn't stop with a transformation, which is why I don't like the transformation.
Health coach and the founder of Movementing. Our guest today on the Settle or Be Better podcast is Mr. Adarsh, who's going to be talking to us about health, lifestyle, and a lot more. So, welcome, Mr. Adarsh, and over to you. Why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your personal health and well-being story and your current role?
Thanks, Sakshi. I first stepped foot in the gym probably when I was around 15 or 16. Just felt good, If I remember right, my then girlfriend in college thought Nikhil Chinnappa was very cute and we had very nice biceps. And I was like, oh no. As 15-year-old, I was panicking because I did not have big arms. And that vanity project is what set me to the gym in the first place. And lo and behold, I think some 23 odd years later, I'm in the industry. I run a gym and I run a coaching service. And I'm not chasing biceps, if that's any consolation. I'm not chasing biceps, but I am trying to get people as strong as they can get, enjoy the process of training. The goal is to get people to like moving every day. It shouldn't be that, hey, I go to the gym biceps or I go to the gym this, I go to the gym to control my HbA1c values. It's not about any of that. You just like being there and having fun, because the only sure shot way in which I'm going to get anyone to come to my gym and train every day is if they actually have fun there. Because if you don't have fun and it's a chore or it's just a to-do list, there's only so long you're going to show up for something which you don't truly enjoy, right?
True, absolutely. It's an amazing story to know. Thank you so much for sharing it.
It's not much of an origin story, but that's how essentially I first stepped in the gym, and then we just keep kicking the can down the road, you keep figuring things out, wind up starting a gym at some point, I guess.
Right. I'm sure that the ones who have been working out, say, for a decade or more, listening to this can relate to it, because you enter the gym with a completely different reason, and most of the time it's because of aesthetic reasons. You want to look a certain way or you want to be more confident. But the more time you spend there, and even after achieving those aesthetic goals, is when you learn why you're there actually. What it does for you.
That's spot on. I mean, okay, but there are broader, bigger trends that basically help me make it a career. Personal liking aside, I did wind up catching the CrossFit wave, functional training wave. So there are several waves which have kind of helped me. Like I joined the industry in 2012, I think. 2012 was when I started my career in fitness, as you call it. And I think that's when the CrossFit thing was just picking up. You could see the CrossFit wave, the functional training wave, everything was just picking up. The strength training wave, you could see the starting strengths of the world, the CrossFits of the world, the Goraks of the world, all these brands and the Rogue Fitness, all of them start kind of cresting up and they start building up. And I've kind of been a lucky participant in that nice giant wave of fitness, which COVID just wound up making the wave even bigger for us. But essentially, we've just rode that wave and tried to essentially stay sane and make good decisions through all these waves, because fitness is all about waves. You're always going to have these fashionable things to do. And I don't want to be the fashionable guy. I don't want to be the guy who's doing only the fashionable things, or I don't want to be the guy even doing the fashions. I want to essentially do what's the sensible, right thing for the client. Trends be damned. Just do the right thing. So that's a loaded question. What is the right thing?
Absolutely. And a lot of coaches have their own different way of teaching. They have their own set of morals and belief system when they, take up a client or a group. And that's how they function, right? Like any coach would teach in a way which comes through their morals and belief system. So what is it that you try to make your clients understand? Because the first goal anybody comes to, any coach is like, I want to lose weight, in 3 months, I have this much time. But what is it that you try to, make your clients understand and probably have succeeded the last few months or years working with them?
In terms of as coach, my primary goal is to get people to firstly understand that, hey, this is a continuous improvement thing you're just going to keep doing. There is no, hey, in 3 months I'm going to be in this place which is awesome, ideal, and I will become the person I'm meant to be in the gym. There's no such thing. First thing we try and bust is, hey, we are selling you a 1 month membership in the essence of it. But that 1 month membership is a starting point where you're going to have to keep building on it. You may choose to build it with us, or you may prefer someone else. I don't mind that. But you've got to understand that it doesn't stop with 3 months. It doesn't stop with a transformation, which is why I don't like the transformation perspective of fitness, where like, hey, look at me, month 1, day 1 and day 90, look at me, I become this person. I don't hate it, but it's not the way I ever pictured like an effective service working. Because, okay, what after day 92, day 93, day 94? So I'm not worried about just day 90, if you want to look at it as a metaphor. Day 90 being the metaphor of the transformation-based industry or the Easter egg-based angle of selling fitness, but I'm more worried about day 5,006 or day 3,650. I want to see what happens. You have to keep at it. There's got to be something you work in. You may work on a single arm push-up, you may work on a single arm pull-up, you may work on your first pull-up, work on your first push-up, you may want to get your first push-up, but you just keep rolling with it. And that rolling with it and just keeping things going is, for me, the single most important thing. You may change, you may not want a deadlift, you may not want to squat, you may want to work on a glute ham, you may want to work on your bench press, you may want to only do single arm push-up, you may want to do calisthenics, you may want to do eccentric training, whatever it is that you want to do. The key point here is you keep doing it and you keep chasing that adaptation, you keep chasing the good things that come off being physically active. I'm not just talking about a workout high end off now or a pump. I'm talking about the good adaptations of being strong, maintaining your mobility, maintaining range of motion, having a lot of power, and having good quality of life that comes. That's one of those primary things we like to pitch to our clients.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense because, there are people who have been weight training specifically or strength training in the gym, and they might feel stagnated or bored of doing the same workout split, over the years. There's just nothing different that they're doing. But we've had people on the podcast who are, in their late 60s and 70s who are doing their first push-up of their life. If you look at them, they're like the fittest people. They look as young as in their 20s or 30s, in their 70s, right? That's when they actually the first push-up, their first pull-up. So it's crazy how much, growth, the scope for growth is there when it comes to fitness. And there's literally so much more to discover beyond than just, go to the gym, lifting weights. And that's not just it.
No, and you hit on a very interesting point there. But too often, I as a coach can get my head up my backside in terms of why it would feel like, hey, they're just doing push-ups. Hey, they're just doing pull-ups. Hey, you're doing lat pull-ups. Hey, they're just hanging. But it helps to empathize and put yourself in that client's position where you're constantly thinking, why is this client here? What can they do which would improve their... If you put yourself in that... Because as someone who runs a gym and who basically has a baseline of it, I'm not the strongest guy in most rooms, or I'm not the fittest guy. I don't have any such claim. But my work capacity is decent and I can do certain things physically which are useful.
Right.
But it helps to not have that assumption that it's just there. If you can put yourself in your client's position where when a person walks in with more capacity and when they earn this capacity or when they work towards this capacity and they have a good time working towards this, it can be such an amazing feeling. And it's easy to forget. As someone I can be like a jaded cop, who's been 12 years in the industry. I can sit like a jaded cop and say, yeah, we got one more person to push up. But if you really frame it as, hey, that person got to that push up, how strong they feel now, how good they feel about their day, that client perspective of how empowering it can be to actually get stronger and to enjoy the process and to have new goals and to look forward to a program and to look forward to the next thing. And just, it should be like a good TV series. Really look at it. Like if you're binge watching a decent TV show, you want to know what happens in the next episode. You want to know what happens. It's like a script that's unfolding. It's like a good screenplay that unfolds in front of you. And for me, fitness has to have that rhyme of what next? What are we going to do?
Absolutely.
What are we going to have fun with? You are getting stronger. All these amazingly good, tangible things is happening to your body. But your head is just as involved in having fun with the thing. So I want my gym and I want my online service to be that place where people log in and they're looking for, hey, what's this guy going to throw at us now? I love that. Right. I love that vibe. I like creating that vibe. But it's all got to be rooted. Don't get me wrong. I don't want variety for the sake of variety because my industry is infamous for throwing variety at people for the sake of entertainment. But I don't want to be that place that entertains for the sake of entertainment. It's more about, can we stay rooted in good principles of exercise selection, periodization, volume selection, blah, 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 while giving people a good time.
Yeah, about what you were saying, that's an amazing point because that's what lacks today in coach and client relations when we see the gym, because it's all about the numbers. They'll be like, I have this much time. The coach will be like, okay, you have to lose this much weight. This is the number. This is the weight that you'll be putting on your barbell. This is the goal that we have to reach, but often forget how to have fun during the process, right? So that's something that will definitely make the process a lot more easier when we actually enjoy the kind of movement we choose to do.
Yeah, there's a framing problem as well. Like what you said is true. But the barbell, there's nothing inherently wrong with having very, very definite numerical goals. Like say, for example, linear periodization works. We know that some of these ideas are based on very sound principles.
Right.
Where these things begin to fall apart is when they become if they are not adapted or they're not made accessible to a wider audience.
Right.
Some of these ideas can feel a little, inaccessible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think these ideas are wrong in the sense, even now in our gym, we really do look at, there are people who look forward to their squat PRs, deadlift PRs. Someone was so excited that they got they got 10 straight pull-ups in a row.
Right.
Someone got very excited when they got 100 kilo back squat or a 70 kilo deadlift. So there are people who get very excited by these numbers, and these numbers are useful in the context of making lifting something tangible, accessible, objective, and accountable. In a sense, you at the end of the day, right, when you do something for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I can't just say, hey, how much fun are you having in the community? When you really do look at an institution that has to, we don't see ourselves as an institution yet, but if we have to be a successful institution in say 10, 15, 20 years down the line, if my gym still exists in some shape or form, with or without me in it, we will have to have this fundamental core. At the heart of it has to, these guys know how to teach exercise as well. These guys know how to get their clients to perform exercise as well. When you walk in, they're not just going to get you to do, everyone do the same thing. They will make sure that you get it right in terms of what you should be.
Right, of course.
But that has to fit in within the core of the entire community, having fun with exercise. All of that falls under the gambit of this habit. So,
absolutely. Definitely. We need to have a balance of both the things for sure when we are working on our health. So that makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing that. And also coming to the other aspect of fitness, that is nutrition, which is a very debated topic today. And there's so many opposing views. There are these food wars going on. Without getting into much detail of it, what principles of nutrition do you believe in? What has worked for you, or how do you sort of plan it for your clients?
I mean, within the context of it, we try and stay as quantitative about our nutrition as possible, because if I do go down the qualitative road of, hey, let's worry about the quality of food, that's a very slippery slope. And we've actually had people on social media call me out and say, hey, why don't you worry about what is in the milk? Why don't you worry about the, say, for example, the aflatoxin content of milk?
Right.
But I'm arguing that as a nutritionist, my job is to give my clients a robust framework to operate and make the right choice. Now, if I start going down trying to help them pick individual foods, I'm going to be in trouble. So, my primary goal is, number one, in the Indian context, can I get them to eat enough protein?
Right.
Alright? Somewhere between 70 to 110 grams of protein. Whatever they need, can they first get there? One. Number two, can they get enough vegetables and quality fiber in there? Number three, can they make good choice on healthy fat? And number four, can they broadly bring it all together with some awareness of calorie requirement? I'm not going to say calorie restriction alone, because there are people who come in who may be underweight. There may be people who just want to keep themselves where they are. But can you broadly get a handle on your energy intake in the prism of overall food consumption, overall protein consumption, and picking the right individual foods? Can you bring it all together in a coherent framework without losing your mind or without it being unsustainable for you? Because that feeling of, hey, I can do this for 3 months and I'm done, that's not what I'm chasing, because I know that inherently unsustainable. For this to last, or for this to be sustainable, people need to feel like it's a fairly sedate choice, and it should feel natural. They don't have to make an effort to it. So they should find ways to prepare food they like with ingredients they can stock regularly and afford regularly, and not feel overwhelmed by the entire process of trying to eat better or eat healthily. I know I put in air quotes because you're not eating healthily. Are you consciously eating unhealthily? No one is trying to eat unhealthy. But the framework of trying to eat better is just not sustainable for most people. So I just try and keep it as accessible as possible. Again, the overarching theme you're going to hear me say is I'm trying to be as accessible with the word of exercise and broadly what we're after.
Absolutely, that's true. I mean, we really beat ourselves up so much when it comes to nutrition today, because if you Google anything, you'll always find the disadvantages and the advantages of the same things. So you're going to be in a mental battle for whatever you choose, right? So keeping it simple and of course closer to how you've grown up with, the kind of the way your family eats or the food is made, maybe not completely, but close to that definitely helps it to be sustainable in the long run, because oftentimes people are able to stick to a certain diet only not even 3 months sometimes, right? And then that's the cycle that they go in. That's really true. Keeping it simple and of course having a balance of both movement and the right nutrition that you know for yourself is gonna definitely help along.
Yes. Now, as a guy from Madras, I love something called curd rice, but I know curd rice is not a popular food elsewhere, but I love my curd rice. But I can't eat curd rice the way I would eat curd rice if I was 17 or 18. I'm 38. I have to behave like a 38-year-old would who's trying to remain lean and healthy. So, for example, I tried tweaking my curd rice with leaner dairy, with higher protein curd, and a little less rice, trying to get the proportions right and making it something which is more viable for my current circumstance and my current context is important. Like you hit on a very interesting theme. Like inherently when we think healthy eating, we don't think of within the context of our culture or the food choices we can make. But we should. You're right about that. You're spot on about that. We can't say, hey, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to have avocado with my pongal tomorrow. That sounds absurd when I say something like, I'm going to eat pongal with avocado or puri with, like, say, for example, a veg shake. It sounds absurd. So trying to get context and the healthy ingredient thing come together, it's doable. I know there are great chefs out there doing some amazing work with trying to make healthy ingredients taste more like the stuff we used to eat.
Right.
That's necessary, you know?
Absolutely. And what are your thoughts on everything in moderation when it comes to nutrition or your lifestyle in general? Do you believe in that, or do you think that's a trap for us?
Moderation is a tricky word in one sense that now there's this entire wave of people, or basically the WHO put out this thing saying that any alcohol is poison, for example, last year.
Right.
Alright? And we have a lot of people who are now pro abstinence from alcohol. Like, do not drink it. This shit is poison. Don't touch it.
Right.
But my problem with that approach is if you are hanging out with a couple of friends and you decide that a beer is a fun way to relive old memories, is that beer, should we necessarily have the mindset that that beer is just bad for us? I'm not arguing for binge drinking, don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing for going all down, barreling down the road of let's drink a bunch. But every human choice we make has an element of risk attached to it. The moment you step out on the road to go to work, or the moment you step out have a drink, there is an element of risk to it. And if you look at the Indian food supply, let's say for example, what happened with spices a few months ago, where a bunch of spices out of India were found tainted, we know that there's an element of risk associated with every consumption choice we make. Now, are we making as informed a decision about what we're doing? And are we trying to figure out what is the least dosage I can have of something to have a good time? Even I know it's simple for me. If I buy pizza, I'm not going to try and eat the whole pizza like a 20-year-old Adarsh would. I would try and say, I'm going to stop at a couple of slices and I'm going to say, hey, that was good. I had fun and I'm going to stop. But setting hard rules against doing stuff doesn't feel like it may be sustainable for some. Don't get me wrong. Again, there are people who do fine. They're like, I don't need to have that beer. I don't need to have that beer. I don't need to have that drink. It's fine. I don't even need to ever eat pizza or sugar. There are people who say that, and power to them. But I find that it's way more flexible for me to say, hey, can you just, I know you're some guy who's enjoyed his third or fourth drink. How about we stop at one or and just cool off a bit and try and measure our food and try and be measured with our eating when we drink. So I take that approach. I don't know, some people would say that's not exactly moderation. But according to me, within the realm of good taste, sustainability, and having a good time, what works for you?
Right.
Because cold turkey, avoiding things, I don't know, doesn't cut it, right? I don't think it works. I don't think, how old are you?
I'm 24.
Yeah. So I'm not going to sell cold turkey, not having good time with friends to someone like you, am I? I'm not going to say, hey, you can't hang out with your friends. You just have to sit at home. You have to wait for your workout on Monday morning. If I give you that kind of advice, you're going to be like, hey man, that's not going to cut it.
Right.
So it's context matters, and you really can't hard sell any idea. Got to be within the context of what works for you, and what your lifestyle is, and what your goals are.
That makes so much sense, because I do have friends, some people, who are completely fine with just having chicken and rice their whole life, like dal, chicken, rice. They will not even have anything else apart from that. They're just happy with that, But there are some people who feel like they're missing out on so much if you don't go out one week. And nobody talks about how much isolation comes in when you are trying, extremely hard. You're being hard on yourself, working on this health journey. If you have a very, strict goal that I just need to lose this weight in these 2 or 3 months, and you say, okay, let me stay at home, let me just sleep, work out, eat, go to work for 3 months, that's it. And after that, I can do whatever I want after I lose the weight, once I lose it. But it's such an isolation you don't realize, because you avoid family functions, you avoid going out with friends, even festive times when there's so much, good, tasty, maybe not healthy food at home being cooked by your mom. But you're so afraid about all of that everything triggers you at some point, and that's a realization you need to have, that that's why we need to make some boundaries wherein we can have a little bit of everything in our life, but also in a good balance.
Yeah, the framing there is the tricky one, right? Like you put it. See, the moment you think of health goals in such extreme terms as 3 months, this is going to happen, this is going to be awesome. It's just like you're waiting for the end of a movie. And the tricky part of that, framing it as the end of a movie, where you're like, at the end of 3 months, I'll be done and be done. The moment you frame it that way, like that thing is just not destined to be a whole lot of fun or sustainable.
Exactly.
It becomes one of those things which becomes like a bunch of mini little events for 3 months and you're done. But I'd rather people just like learn to slow burn the damn thing and just like, hey, I got here today, I got here tomorrow, and just keep at it and not really get worked up about, I'm going to reduce my body fat percentage by XX% in next month and be done. I'd rather be like, I'm going want to get myself down to say 18% or 20% or 22%. And I know that there will be phases of my life where I can take it down to 17% and enjoy that. And there will be phases of my life where it might go up to 23%, and that's okay because I know how to bring it back down to 17. So it helps when you know that this entire journey of life, as you want to call it, this entire fitness thing fits in with your life, and it's just something you're doing. And the different things you do come and go with it. The different goals you have, the different things you may get a little pudgier around, say Diwali or whatever. You get a little pudgier around the holidays. Friends' weddings coming up, you're having a good time. So just you get a little pudgy, and then you spend a few months later, a few months later, just trying to get back down to a more reasonable place. I'm not arguing, hey, I had a good time. 2 weeks, I'm just not going to do anything. That feels too extreme. So I think you got to see it as phases of life and phases of what you're going through.
Right, definitely.
It's like a job sort of sense, right? You're going to have good days and bad days at work, but you're going to work and you're going to keep working.
Absolutely. And I'm sure the ones who have made space for well-being and health and these efforts in their life spent years, keeping this consistent. They can definitely say that it gets easier with time because when something doesn't go the way you planned, like, a weekend of going out or something, or maybe a wedding, a family function, maybe you're sick, something like that. You don't beat yourself up for that the next day or the next week.
Yeah.
You know just what to do. Just get back to your routine, because that is what stuff a lot of people. Like, one slip up and then you're like,
but what you said, routine. What is your baseline? What's your mean behavior? What's your average behavior? What's your average day like matters so much, because I think all that extreme lifestyle-y weirdness and the overcompensating for a bad day, all that kicks in only when you do not have a set pattern which is reliably in sync with whatever your goals are. Again, I'm not hard selling this idea that everyone has to have 18% body fat or anything. There are people who are fine at 20-25% body fat. They just want to lift a bit, they want to be strong, they want their heart to be healthy, they want to get a dose of activity. And there are people who, if that's your goal, is your lifestyle putting the time needed for that goal? Are you giving the time needed for that lifestyle? So if you make a lifestyle choice, the most underrated thing is, are you putting the time required for that lifestyle? Now, if your self-professed goal is to carry 15% body fat and a 4-pack all the time and walk around, is your average lifestyle compatible with that thing you're saying you want to be? Is it the person you want to be? Because a lot of the time, these physical and fitness goals wind up becoming the person that you are because of the way you spend your time.
Right, exactly.
Like you said, if your routine is just not reflective of the lifestyle you say you want to have, then what? What are you going to do? I mean, like, when you have a couple of bad days, it's just going to derail you because you didn't have that band of way you live just is fundamentally incompatible with what you say you want to be.
It definitely needs to be a part of your identity. That way, it's not something, you are constantly trying to go out of your comfort zone or, to reach a goal that is so far away from you.
It can't be aspirational.
Right, exactly.
It really can't be. I mean, you can't just you're right. It really can't be one of those things where your goal is like way up. I can't constantly be like aspiring to an Ambani wedding or whatever nonsensical goal when my every lifestyle choice I have indicates that I'm going to get a quote wedding. But your lifestyle's got to be reflective of what you're going to be doing day in, day out. And your goals and whatever you think you're saying you are has to be that. You can't say, I'm going to be a bodybuilder, I'm going to be in a bodybuilding competition and live a life which is completely incompatible with that. Or worst case, you don't even know what it takes to get there.
Exactly.
Now, that might be the bigger problem, where people just fundamentally don't have a clue as to what they need to be doing to even have that lifestyle they think they want to have.
Exactly.
So there's a double mismatch where, number one, that lifestyle you think you want to have has no relationship with your lifestyle now. And worse yet, you have no idea what lifestyle you need to even get to the lifestyle you think you want.
True.
Which is like I don't know, man. It's like a very fragile way to approach lifestyle goals. But again, like I said, it's just people will generally gravitate towards what they want. And if they really want it, they do what it takes to get there. Is my fundamental takeaway from 12 years of watching people work out. If you really say you want to do something and you want to get something, or you want to be some kind of person in terms of how your physical capacity is, or even how you look, you will generally find a way to get there.
Definitely. And lastly, talking about routine, what today are your non-negotiables when it comes to health? Because you've spent years in fitness yourself and also being a coach, now having this community. Today, what are your health non-negotiables? Something that you absolutely do not miss, not just working out or nutrition, but anything else?
Me personally, or me as an expectation of my client?
Yeah, you personally.
Oh, geez. Okay, all right. I would be a terrible client for myself, I know. Okay. First and foremost, there are things which I can't do now, which I would do if I was, which would be easy. If I wasn't a coach, I could work out every morning. But as a coach, I can't work out in the morning. I coach from 4 in the morning to about 12 in the afternoon. I can't work out a point when I would honestly think is fun for me. I could never work out in my favorite hour anymore.
Right.
So I have to run classes and I have to coach people when I'd like to work out. So probably now my own non-negotiables generally revolve around movement goals. Like say I'll pick a nice little goal, like I'm working on a single arm push-up for example. And I've spent the good chunk of my last 9 to 10 months of my life working towards a goal like that. And I'm going to plug away at a goal like that. And I know I'll spend 20, 30, 25 minutes a day on that goal. And I have a single arm pull-up goal and I've decided I'm going to put 15 minutes a day on that. I have an air bike behind me. I've told myself I'm going to spend 10 minutes a day on that with a mile target or with a time target, interval target.
Right.
So I set myself, I basically try and set aside an hour and a half a day to be active. And I set reasonable goals to map against that time I have, and I try and get there.
Right.
And between like a 6-year-old daughter and running a gym, you don't really get 2 straight hours to work out. So I generally break it down to 15-20 minute chunks. I'll do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, or 40 minutes in the evening, 20 minutes in the morning. I'll find a way to squeeze in all the activity and goals that I have. But I generally work on movement goals. It's easier for me.
That's an amazing point because, another thing that I observe with me also, I'm trying to change that also with my people around me, is that if you're not able to hit that 1 hour or 1.5 hour at the gym, this all or nothing mindset sort of kicks in and you're like, wait, I just want to do it. What am I going to do in 20 minutes? Like I was just going to go for an hour, but this meeting came up. So let me just go tomorrow. Yeah. But it makes so much sense because I myself have been chunking the movement goal down throughout the whole day. And at the end of the day, I'm so happy with myself, right? Because I didn't miss the whole workout just because I couldn't go for a complete hour together. But I've hit my movement goal of the day, and in fact, I felt much better and with much more mobility throughout the day than going for that one hardcore hour if I'm not able to do it. So that's an important point.
That's awesome, actually. You're spot on about that. If you know what you need to get done with the day and you get done with it in small chunks, it's awesome. But that's it. At some level, I don't know if I've forgotten how to do the 1.5 straight hour workout thing, and that terrifies me to a degree too. Because as someone who used to work out an hour and a half, I don't know if I remember how to work out for an hour and a half straight anymore. In the sense, one after another. I've not done that in a while because life, job, blah blah blah. But you're right in the sense, I know I've picked hard enough skills and I've put enough time on it. Your body and your physical capacity will be a reflection of what you can do, and you have to trust that choice you've made. So if you can make these choices that I will do hard enough things and I'll put enough time to do hard enough things, my body will be capable of it, and that's what I'm really gunning for. I'm not really after that. It's not just a time chunk. It's not that I just don't want to say like you have these medical association recommendations that 1 hour of strength training or 3 hours of strength training. I don't want it to be just a generic recommendation. If you can actually be more nuanced and talk about movement in a more literate way, about what it is and what you're seeking, it is easier to have the mindset you described, where you're essentially thinking, I'm going to put 20 minutes for the single arm push-up. I'm going to do this about 5 times a week, and that's going to be good.
Absolutely. And that was an amazing episode. And for the ones who don't follow you already, there'll be links in the description below of your LinkedIn and your Instagram, where you post amazing stuff over there. They can reach out to you and learn a lot more from you. Thank you once again, Mr. Adarsh, for being here today and spending this time with us.
Thank you so much, Sakshi.